anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck, you may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host, the Wardlow to my MJF, the Sammy Guevara to my Chris Jericho. Ladies and gentlemen, the ox that rocks, the human beatbox, Robert Winfree.
Well, you stumbled over that.
Yeah, I was
pretty badly.
Wait, are we talking wrestling or a video game adaptation tonight? Because I may have called into the wrong show.
No, Mark's just kind of trying to shove AEW into places it doesn't belong, like, existence.
Well, that was half AEW references because I just watched The Wardlow versus Cody in a steel cage.
Giant meh.
You can't say that about The Wardlow and his man bun.
Okay. I will say it again. Giant meh.
I don't know, man.
Not even interesting enough to actively dislike.
That moonsault off the cage looked pretty cool.
Nope.
My wife noped out. I begged her to stay and watch it with me. I was like, come on, it's The Wardlow. You have to watch The Wardlow.
She's going to leave you if you keep saying that.
You know, you two could just figure this out. I'm going to go let my dogs out.
And she was willing to put up with my shenanigans until once again, Bleedy McBurst Vessel.
Go ahead, keep trying.
Take 3. We'll fix it in post. Bleedy McBurst Vessel. Almost got it that time. Bled all over his face again, and she was like, nope, I'm out. That's what finally ran her out of the room. Cody's Cody's constant blood mask, not the Wardlow.
No, I'm pretty sure it was the Wardlow.
That other voice you hear, of course, is Alexis Hejna. Are you back, Alexis, or are you still letting the dogs out? Hoot, 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 hoot. Are you letting the dogs out?
Well, you didn't hear Eddie's cameo?
The other side of that introduction was a bit from the old Fat Boy song, where they were introducing the members of the Fat Boys, and he says, they're talking about blah, 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 and he says, the ox that rocks, better known as the human beatbox. I remember that.
So just for the record.
Yes, sir.
Your decision to try and introduce me
yes, sir.
was a mediocre professional wrestler.
Yes.
And then an obscure 90s hip-hop group, neither of which I actually know anything about.
Not
so bravo.
Not 90s, 80s.
Whatever.
And none of this has any correlation whatsoever to Sega and Sonic the Hedgehog.
I know.
Well, maybe it slightly does. Because in the Jim Cornette drive-thru intro...
Nope, stop. Just stop. Nope. No Jim Cornette. You want to justify your connections? Do it somewhere. Do it another way.
Yeah, seriously, can we redo this entrance with you at least trying to sing the theme song to Sonic or something?
He doesn't even know the theme song to Sonic. Yeah, see, that's not it. Yeah, see, that's not it.
That is it.
No, that's like you trying to make an 8-bit sound. That's not actually the Sonic theme song.
Is the theme to Sonic the Hedgehog Touched by the Crimson King?
No.
Is it?
Just give up, Mark. Accept your defeat and your shame, and let's move on.
I will not. By the way.
Okay. Keep trying.
But you can
I got all night.
You can go on with the show. We'll come back to this.
You know, I have a physical in the morning, so I really can't be up that late tonight, guys.
Okay, I don't want to hold this. I'll be serious. I don't want to hold the show up anymore. I do want to tell Alexis Hejna, this is very important, and I meant to say before the show, that all the Japanese girls like to play with Kenny Omega's Sega. Got it out. I win.
Is that a reference to something?
Yes, it's a reference to Jim Cornette's drive-thru.
That's not a thing.
All right, I'm done now.
I feel so sorry to anyone whose introduction to our network is this show.
I don't.
Yeah, look, Mark is... What's the best way to describe Mark right now?
I'm a card.
You ever see that episode of Celebrity Jeopardy where David Duchovny plays Jeff Goldblum? Yeah, that's Mark. He is a human wasteland.
Oh.
The letter to my friend. Yeah, that's you, Mark. I enjoy that. All right, getting back on track, because boy was that a 5-car pileup on the interstate right off the get-go.
You're welcome.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start this out the way it needs to. Sega!
There we go.
Oh, that's how all the lame kids do it. The cool kids talk about Kenny Omega Sega.
No one talks about Kenny Omega.
And his Sega?
No, anything to do with Kenny Omega. He's peaked. He's burning out. Like he's not a non-entity anymore.
Move it along!
Dude's done, overexposed ever since he broke up with Ibushi. He's not that good.
You two are going to start pissing me off if we
No,
don't
but
move
I
it.
just... No, you have to understand. I just pissed off every internet wrestling fan in the world by throwing shade at Kenny Omega, so I'll take that. All right. Moving on to the appropriate topic. We are tonight talking about the big screen adaptation of everyone's favorite speed-obsessed quadrupedal mammal, Sonic the Hedgehog. And Mark, for his part, did not want to review this. The one time I can recall Mark voluntarily saying, hey, let's do a horror movie. Because he wanted to do the Fantasy Island adaptation. I say adaptation very, very loosely.
Yes, sir.
Which you would have hated.
We all would have hated it.
I reserve judgment.
Robert, you, me, and Jason are bona fide horror junkies, and I'm pretty convinced we would have walked out of that just saying, shoot me.
I'm so familiar with that experience now in my movie-going life that it barely resonates. Like, I walked out of Birds of Prey going, I should have shot myself 3 hours ago. So, but there was the entire story around Sonic the Hedgehog as a movie property. And we all kind of felt that warranted a bit of discussion, even if the movie itself was unbelievably bland or terrible. There's a discussion to be had surrounding the comically inept decision-making on pretty much every level that went into that first trailer for this movie.
We actually did a reaction to that trailer, folks. We don't get to do trailer reactions very much, especially now that we've switched networks. But yeah, that was one that I called Mark. I'm like, we have to do a reaction to this.
And for once, the people in charge saw the backlash and didn't go, well, that's just X. Or, we're only the most downvoted video in YouTube history. What could possibly go wrong? We will plow ahead with our terrible movie release. They accepted the feedback, spent another, I think, $5 million fixing it, and released something that was much more palatable visually.
The animation company that did the redesign actually went out of business.
You mean the original or the second one?
Second one.
That's
the
a
ones that
shame.
actually gave us a good-looking hedgehog.
That's
Those
a
poor
shame.
souls worked their fingers to the bone, and then they got fired.
Absolute shame, because they did a great job. So, we figured there'd at least be something interesting to talk about from that perspective. Then the movie actually lands, and not to spoil the money portion of this too much, but it done smashed over Detective Pikachu to become the highest-grossing opening weekend video game adaptation in United States box office history.
Wait, does that mean you finally accept that Detective Pikachu was a real movie?
Yeah, I don't know why Mark didn't try to get me to see it. Seems like some kind of unholy torture he'd try to foist on me, but...
Plug, folks. Go check out our Detective Pikachu review.
So that's where we've landed here, and Mark, you were resistant to the idea of Sonic. I want you to eat a little bit of crow before we do the plot synopsis.
All I said was, it's a children's movie. You guys don't typically want to do you don't want to do children's movies. Alexis is fine with it, but you typically don't want to do them. There's a horror movie that weekend. I was trying to accommodate you, and you all were like, "No, let's do the kid pick." I'm like, "Okay, whatever. I'll be seeing it anyway because my son, and I know I've said this a few times now, but Sonic the Hedgehog was my son's Avengers Endgame. He could not have been more excited for this movie, and I've heard about this. When he found out it was being delayed from November to February, oh, the tears he shed and the whines he whined. He went effing crazy. And
Did you explain to him that it was being delayed because they needed to make Sonic actually look, tolerable?
No, I told him that it was delayed because God hated him and he needed to behave better. Yes,
That's a good No. Your option was better, Mark.
I just told him we didn't get that deep into it. He just said they needed more time to work on the movie, so it would be better. And he was like, okay. And then for every week after that, he would ask me, "Is it coming out this week?" I'm like, "No, learn to read a calendar." So,
I mean, learning to read in general would be a good start.
It would be. But I'll tell you what, I've never seen my children more well-behaved in the theater, and they're generally well-behaved, but I mean, like, sit still and not ask me stupid questions or have to go to the bathroom 10 times. None of that during this movie. Rapt attention. And the theater cheered like it was 20-year-olds in the opening of a Star Wars movie. I mean, this was a phenomenal movie experience in terms of, like, little kids movies. So I that aspect of it I really enjoyed.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump. If there's nothing else we want to say before we talk about the plot of this movie, such as it is. Nope, nobody. Going once, going twice. Sold on two plots.
Sorry, I had to mute the microphone. Andre just came home.
Oh, no worries.
Hi, Andre.
He heard you.
Did he harumph in our general direction? It's like, oh, she's on with those guys again.
Probably. I think he's getting a little tired of coming home, and I've got the microphone on. He said it's fine.
Terrific. Your plot synopsis.
We all know what that means.
Speaking of it's fine, plot synopsis, go.
So we're introduced to young Sonic the Hedgehog, who's an extraterrestrial anthropomorphized blue hedgehog who has incredible speed and blue lightning as the manifestation of his power that is utterly unexplained. But hey, sequels.
Speed Force.
Ugh, don't get me started. I genuinely hate the Flash. Like, he is almost as much of a Mary Sue as Batman.
Wow, just the silence.
Yeah, see, you can't joke about the Flash. No one likes to have a sense of humor about the guy, despite him being the biggest joker in the show.
I just don't feel like getting into this argument with you. You hate a beloved character. Everyone mark that on your bingo card. Let's move on.
Look, I hate that he's one of those guys like, oh, the Speed Force can do anything. Okay. Yeah, you just shot me in the face. Speed Force, I can accelerate my healing process in a localized area and survive. Yeah, get bent. All right, anyway, we meet young Sonic, who speeds around the island that he was born on. He is guarded by a female owl by the name of Longclaw.
Who never made a single appearance in the games. Although, I gotta ask, did anyone else have Ocarina of Time flashbacks?
Yes. That stupid owl.
It's like, good, tell me I'm not the only one who saw that and said, crap, where's the skip button?
No, because the skip button for that scene is the same button you use to progress, you have to use to progress, so you wind up repeating his obnoxious instructions 8 times.
Yeah, that's what was like, shit, no, not again!
Yep. Anyway, she's encouraging him to not show off his power because she doesn't fully understand it and doesn't want him to be exploited. Sonic, being the personification of 5-year-olds, does not listen and is tracked back to their house by a tribe of echidnas.
Glad I'm not the only one who caught that. Do you think Knuckles was in that group?
No, but because Knuckles is only a little bit older than Sonic.
Oh, true.
But this is going to set up some of the conflict between the two of them, I imagine. Like, Sonic will recognize him as an echidna and instantly distrust him because racism is funny.
Wait, so Knuckles isn't a hedgehog?
I hate you.
I was gonna say, Mark, you're being unusually quiet throughout this.
Well, part of it is I'm letting you kids who are clearly closer in age than you are to me talk, because I played the game on the Sega when I had a Sega back when I was a kid, and that's it. I never watched the cartoons, read the comic books. I don't really have a close connection to this character, so I'm listening. So I'm aware of certain things, but this, Jesse was like, I don't know if you guys heard the Sonic Genesis. I know I cracked Bailey up with this. Jesse's like, "Hey man, have you been playing that Sonic Mania?" And I'm like, "No, I don't play that bullshit." And you could just hear Jesse's face fall off, as is wont to happen when one does a podcast with me. But yeah, I mean, I this much like the Pokemon podcast that we did. This is something that is exciting for you, and this is something you guys have like a lot of knowledge about and want to talk about. That's fine. I don't have a lot to contribute till we get to the craft review of the movie. So have at it.
Knuckles is an echidna,
So
not a
is he-
hedgehog.
No, echidna is right.
So he's not a hedgehog.
Go ahead, Mark. Tell you what, Mark. You Google echidna and know that that's a real thing in the world.
So echidnas are not hedgehogs.
Correct.
You want to have some real fun? Google echidna reproduction.
Yep.
Terrific.
You could also look up pangolins. They're of the same they're roughly the same family as echidnas. Anyway,
We have too much free time, folks.
I probably mispronounced that. I think it's pangolins now that I think
Oh
about
my
it.
god.
Anyway, the echidnas show up and try to capture Sonic.
We're
Longclaw
1 minute
is,
into this fucking movie, by the way, and it's been 20 minutes into this podcast. But go on.
Dude, you spent 15 minutes trying to suck off Kenny Omega verbally. Shut up.
And
Moving right along.
And the Wardlow.
So
Seriously,
they're
you two
attacked.
Stay on topic. I'm going to start singing that song for the Muppet movie.
Fair enough. So they're attacked by these echidnas. It's explained a little bit later, but all advanced civilizations use these rings that you can hold on to, think about a specific location, chuck into the air. They will then open up a portal. You travel through it, the ring dissipates, and you've now traveled huge distances instantaneously. Longclaw gives Sonic a bag full of rings, chucks one, sending him to Earth, and then heroically holds off the echidnas from the opening of the portal before it dissipates, leaving Sonic all alone in the wilds of Montana. Because hedgehogs in Montana have such a good survival rate. Anyway, we flash forward 10 years, where Sonic, we find a very lonely, very slightly psychologically disturbed Sonic the Hedgehog, who is living vicariously by surreptitiously observing the people of this small town, the town of Green Hills, because, yay, video game reference. And he is like fabricating relationships with these people, even though none of them know he's actually there, apart from the one crazy guy. And this is Montana. The fact that there's only one crazy guy in the town strikes me as highly improbable. And for the record, I like Montana. I like the people there, but I'm going to call a spade a spade. His primary source of entertainment, or the people he likes to watch, are the town sheriff, played by James Marsden, whose name is Thomas Wachowski, and his wife, Maddie.
Who's a vet?
Yeah, he does not know their names initially. He refers to Tom as the Donut Lord, and his explanation is actually great later, because he talks to donuts to amuse himself because he's so bored, and then eats them, and then will sporadically eat one to keep the others in line. and he calls Maddie Pretzel Girl, the pretzel lady, because she bends like I think his only thing was, yeah, she has no bones because she takes yoga. So I think that's where he got that. Anyway, he's very lonely, but, trying to make the best of his existence. And our big inciting incident actually comes after he watches the local Little League team compete in a playoff game, and they win, and then to amuse himself, he kind of recreates a bit of a scene at the end. He plays baseball by himself because he's so fast, he can play all the positions. Hits an inside-the-park home run, because of course he does. Then tries to celebrate, but finally has to realize again that he's alone. And in a fit of... he doesn't get to, rage dance the way you do in Footloose. He rage runs around the baseball diamond, his emotional state eventually setting off an electromagnetic pulse via his power, whatever that happens to be, that wipes out, again, the power supply of the entire Pacific Northwest. This is, of course, picked up by the government because, hey, giant power outage over huge distances.
Doesn't hit the cell phone towers for some reason, since everyone's still able to communicate through those.
Yeah, that was an odd one, wasn't it?
It's still kind of... It's one of those moments where it's like, okay, fine, we'll let it slide, but when you really think about it, you go, wait a minute.
Well, the landlines would still be operational, but the cell phones probably not.
No, landlines are powered by electricity. Phones wouldn't work.
Hang on.
Damn it.
Because, some of that, for the record, some of that depends on what kind of phone you have. If you have the older kind, they actually will draw power directly from the phone lines rather than from the...
I'm just gonna chalk it up to the same excuse we made when we watched Zombieland 2, and they were talking about how the hydroelectric dams kept kicking back on, and just say, well, something's got to work for this plot to move forward.
Fair enough. So the United States government decides to dispatch, in their own words, a psychological tire fire. Dr. Ivan Robotnik, played by... Evo, excuse me, you're correct.
Yeah.
Played by Jim Carrey.
He was clearly channeling the 90s.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Jim Carrey in the 90s was actually one of my favorite actors, and seeing him come back and just clearly playing the role with the director saying, okay, here's what's on your character's mind, here's the music that's playing in the background, go! And it is so refreshing to see Jim Carrey come back and chew the scenery and pick it out of his teeth.
With another bit of scenery that he just chewed on. Yeah, he's that man is chomping at the celluloid. So this unit gets dispatched to try to figure out what the heck happened, because mostly to generate an EMP of that kind of size, you need a nuclear explosion, which clearly did not happen. So he's there to figure out what happened. Sonic realizes he's being cornered again and he's going to have to leave. Collects his stuff to the best that he can. But is too... we see some of Robotnik's drones, and he's very good at tracking Sonic. Sonic escapes, looks to find a place that he can use a ring, go to a planet full of nothing but mushrooms and no other people. And as he's there, getting ready to say goodbye to Earth and the imagined life he has, James Marsden, who has been trying to scare away raccoons, which is a heck of a thing to try and do. They are persistent little buggers. Shows up with his wife's tranquilizer gun that's apparently loaded for bear.
I thought she said horse.
One of the two. I thought it was bear, but he shows up and sees Sonic, freaks out, shoots him in the leg. Sonic, woozy from the narcotic now pouring through his system, inadvertently activates a ring trying to the Pyramid Tower in San Francisco, because Tom has just accepted a position at the San Francisco Police Department and is wearing a shirt with that on it. Then as Sonic falls, his bag of rings slides through the portal, disappears, he falls unconscious. Tom tries to put him in a dog cage while trying to figure out what to do with him. Robotnik shows up around this point and tries to intimidate Tom, who's not really having any of it. There's a small fight. Tom winds up knocking Robotnik out with a single punch because Glassjaw, I guess? I don't know. Sonic eventually kind of convinces him to take me to San Francisco where my rings are and I will get out of your hair. But I wouldn't be in this position. But this is mostly your fault, because if you hadn't shot me, I literally would have just left. Incidentally, Robotnik has found one of Sonic's quills at this point, which is still, like, humming with his residual energy. There's actually a great gag when Tom pulls off to the side of the road, tells Sonic San Francisco is straight west, you can't miss it. That's not accurate. I know enough about But Sonic takes off west, apparently runs into the Pacific, runs back.
It's the best part of the movie, by the way.
And unfortunately, it's in one of the trailers.
Well, the explanation when he comes back, and, Robert and I kid each other about our personality quirks and speech delivery and all of that. And when I watch Sonic come back and he goes into, as I was careening into the Pacific Ocean, I was like, wow, I'm wondering if Robert's watching that going, holy shit, that's Mark.
As I was careening into the cold waters of the Pacific Ocean, I had a few epiphanies. One, saltwater stings. Two, I can't do this on my own. Now I'm cold, there's a fish on my head, and it's all your fault.
It scares me how well you can remember movie quotes.
I died laughing at that, and again I was just like, wow. Had I been a supersonic hedgehog careening into the Pacific Ocean, that's exactly how I would have delivered that line.
Yeah.
Side note: Ben Schwartz, voice of Sonic, is perfect casting in this. He delivers every line just so well. He's really funny. Although I kept having Dewey Duck flashbacks because he's also that voice on the new DuckTales series.
Ooh. They resume their journey. Robotnik has Tom branded a domestic terrorist, like you do.
It really doesn't amount to anything because he goes into several locations and doesn't get flagged.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is he would have been at least flagged at a port of entry into the state of California because California is weird.
Yeah, the only person in the whole movie who actually freaks out about him being a domestic terrorist is his sister-in-law. I guess Maddie went down to San Francisco early, and I guess her sister and her niece live there. And for reasons that we never find out,
she's a racist. She just doesn't like him. She just doesn't like him because he's white.
That was my conclusion.
Oh, okay. I will take that under advisement. That's not really where my head was going.
We're open to various interpretations, but yeah, hates honkies. That's where I landed.
Okay, fine. I'm too much of an optimist and to immediately have my brain go there. Sean Comer will tell you one of his favorite lines I ever said. I'm trying to be racist, but it's just not working.
Oh, it comes so easily to Rob and I. It's almost natural. Right, Robert?
You can't set me up like that. I was about to call you 4 different things.
Damn right, honky. Go on.
So, as they're going, Sonic is introduced to the concept of a bucket list, even though kick the bucket being an incredibly localized metaphor. I actually liked his response. Oh, I've never kicked a bucket either. Man, I've got so much to do.
I'd like to add that we need to use the phrase bucket listing from now on as a verb. I love it's like, oh, we're bucket listing? Oh, come on, let's do it. I love using that phrase like that now. So again, next time you do something crazy, just say, I'm bucket listing.
I'll allow it. So Sonic creates his a long list of things he wants to do over his last couple of days on the planet Earth. They go into a rougher bar. They enjoy crappy food. They play darts. They dance. Then they are instigated upon a bar fight after they're called hipsters.
Oh, come on. That was hilarious.
Sonic's response to that was perfect. Like, if there's one insult he's going to have picked up on, we don't want your kind here. What's that? Hipsters. How dare you?
And we get a great scene of Sonic trying to break a beer bottle over the bald guy's head and learning, yeah, that doesn't work very well in real life.
It takes so much more effort than you think it does, and it'll break all the way to like every movie one does. It breaks and it like leaves this little bit after the neck that you can like in theory try to stab people with. In reality, if you break a beer bottle like that, it shatters pretty much all the way like through the neck. You really don't have anything left to hold on to. It's a terrible idea. And I'm not going to tell you how I know that. So they head off. They resume their journey. They are ambushed by a series of drones from Robotnik in probably the best action sequence in the movie, actually.
There's no probably about it.
Where it starts off with one thing, Sonic is able to disable it, it then becomes another thing, then another, then another. It winds up being this little flying drone that cuts off the top of their car.
Oh, it's cute. Can we keep this one?
Which in turn winds up becoming an adhesive bomb after Sonic grabs it. They are able to very narrowly get it off of them and onto a rock, but Sonic's proximity to the detonation is too close, and
He's
he is
carrying his rings, so
he is then seriously injured via the explosion. Tom bundles him into the car, drives the rest of the last little bit to San Francisco, finds his wife, who's a vet, and begs for help with Sonic, and Sonic eventually recovers. He's injured, but not completely out of the fight. The little girl, this would be her name is JoJo, actually, I think.
yeah, no, it's Tom and Maddie's niece.
Yeah.
His sister-in-law's little girl.
Yeah, she actually gives Sonic some shoes, because the ones he had were very worn down and probably scavenged from various garbage sites. So he now finally has his iconic shoes. They head to the building in question, including I thought the funniest sequence of the movie when they have secured him in a duffel bag and are waiting for an elevator, and a couple of people come up next to them to try to get on, and Sonic is losing patience and starts talking. At which point the people around go, "Do you have your baby in there?" No, he likes it in there. No, I don't like it in here. This is almost as bad as that dog cage you had me in earlier.
And what was the line? No, I don't have a kid in there. Well, okay, I do, but it's not my kid.
Yeah, it's just a series of people, that whole thing going from bad to worse. They eventually get up to the top of they get up to the level they're looking for. Sonic prepares to say his goodbyes. Robotnik shows up, now having finally harnessed the power of the Hedgehog.
And wearing his iconic red outfit, which he claims is a flight suit, even though he's inside the ship, so a flight suit would make no difference whatsoever.
Well, not in the ways he wanted it to. Flight suits... Oh, God. Mr. Wizard. Flight suits with high velocity. You see this in, like, Navy pilots or NASA
Mark,
pilots.
I'm sorry.
They're actually weighted. They have little bits of sandbags at various portions around their, like through the legs and the arms,
designed to weight things down and help prevent all the blood from being pushed all the way, because it inhibits blood flow to the point that not to a dangerous degree, but it's meant to delay the effects of severe G's where all the blood is pulled out of your brain, and that's why you lose consciousness. So that's why flight suits exist in that context. And in the context he said, no, it reduces drag. Like, buddy, if you're flying with that top down, you've got more problems than a suit's going to solve. We get a chase scene through San Francisco. Sonic begins using his rings to try and go around the globe. But again, Robotnik has tapped into the same power that is powering Sonic, so he's able to keep up with him. He eventually basically blows him up as they go back to the Montana city of Green Hills, where Sonic has already sent Tom and Maddie. Tom tries to jump Robotnik again. Doesn't work this time. Tom declares Sonic his true friend. The power of friendship revives Sonic with blue lightning. He then steals back a bunch of the energy from the quill that is powering Robotnik's ship. Tom opens up a portal behind Robotnik's ship. Sonic Powerball knocks him through the portal.
Ben Dash.
Robotnik winds up in the Mushroom Kingdom. I can't be the only one who thought that.
Well, duh.
Sonic decides to stick around the city of Green Hills. Everyone now has seen him and decided to kind of accept him. The government essentially erases all knowledge of the existence of Robotnik. Sonic settles into, his new family, essentially being adopted by Tom and Maddie. Robotnik on the Mushroom Planet shaves his head, has grown out his mustache, but he still has the quill, which has a little bit of power left, and he has the wreckage of his ship. He gets my favorite line from Robotnik, actually, comes in this moment, as he is shaving his head with a piece of shrapnel, looking at his blown-out mustache in a pool of water, and just says to himself, somewhat deadpan, my grip on sanity remains absolute. He vows not only revenge, but that he will be able to return to Earth in a few months, whereas a normal man would be just hopelessly marooned and dead.
Yeah, what the line here was like, uninhabited planet, no resources, no supplies, no apparent way home. A lesser man would die. I'll be home by Christmas.
Which I think will be accurate. And then our final shot of the movie occurs mid-credits, where one anthropomorphized fox by the name of Miles Prower, better known by his nickname of Tails, arrives on Earth via ring portal looking for Sonic. Because sequel.
I gotta ask, since we were talking
Hang on. There's just one thing to say. Mark, you're a sandbagging son of a gun. You could have just told me I was right.
No, go enjoy things.
It would not have affected my enjoyment one way or the other.
It would have affected mine.
It
No, it
affected
wouldn't.
mine a little bit since you told me about that.
Who?
I thought you'd already seen the movie by the time I said that. My apologies.
Ugh.
Okay, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Mark and I were joking off about the movie in one of these calls. And he said, no, there's a post-credit scene you got to stick around for. And I said, what, does Tails show up? And he went, just shut up and see the movie. Which I should have taken to just mean, yes, I'm correct.
What I was about to say, though, yes, you did spoil that for me. Thank you, Robert. Is, first of all, I did love seeing Tails. He was always one of my favorite characters in the games. But can you guys just imagine for a second how Tails probably looked before they did the massive redesign on Sonic?
I'd really rather not.
I was like, can you just imagine how freaky and disturbing he probably looked?
I'd really rather not.
I'm thinking he'd look more like a helicopter. just a furry helicopter. Because Tails, get it? Propeller.
Get it? Miles per hour? Miles per hour? Nudge, nudge.
Get it?
Yes.
That's all hilarious.
I agree.
All right.
Mark, why don't you get us started here? Because you were quiet for a lot of this. I will give you the floor. The good, the bad, the otherwise.
Let me first say, and this is kind of linked back to what I was saying before, I like seeing kids happy and enjoy themselves, I enjoy watching kids, at play and having fun. And it really, I've been talking about this a lot on various podcasts, but there does come a moment where you realize something just isn't for you. And, we'll talk about the pure craft of it in just a minute, but I think sometimes you have to have like a tacit realization that something is made for a very specific audience in mind. You might not be part of that audience. And for me, I was in a full, I saw a 6:30 Friday night show in our local theater, and the place was packed with kids. And I have seen a lot of children's movies in a lot of packed theaters. And there's crying babies and bored kids, and it doesn't always go so great. From what I could tell, all the kids were super into it. They were all pretty well behaved. There wasn't like a lot of talking. You could hear a palpable sense of joy emanating from the crowd. And if I can just speak to my own two kids, like I said before, my son sat leaning forward, eyes glued to the screen the entire time. And when Tails came out, holy shit, it was like seeing the Phantom Menace in theaters, and the first time R2-D2 showed up on screen, and all the neckbeards cheered. It was like one of those moments, and kind of after a fact, it didn't really matter what I thought of the movie. I was happy for him. Alexis sent us that cute little cartoon of the two guys having a Star Wars conversation, and the one guy says to the other, I didn't enjoy it, but I'm glad it brought joy to your life. That was sort of the ultimate moment. It brought joy to all these other people moment for me. And I think that's all I could really ask of this movie. It be coherent, in focus, and bring joy to all these kids who are clearly more invested in this IP than I ever could be. That said, there's been a lot of talk about why didn't they just set this thing in the world of Sonic, and I think I brought this up with regards to why they did the He-Man movie the way they did and Canon Films. I mean, granted, Canon had no budget, but there comes a point where if it becomes too expensive to build sets because your setting is too off-worldy, too exotic, then you have to do it animated. And if you're doing an animated setting with an animated character, you have an animated movie. This isn't live action anymore. Unless you're doing kind of like a Roger Rabbit thing where you have the human in the animated world. But that said, they were for whatever the reasons are, they were going for live action. We want this character to be in a live action environment, a real life environment. At which point, there's no reason to have him in that world anymore. You'll never get it right unless you do the whole thing animated, and then, like I said, then you just have a cartoon. So I was okay with, the He-manization of Sonic the Hedgehog, getting him out of the Sonic world and putting him in the real world. I just wanted to address that right at the top, that I was okay with how they structured this and set it. I like that they casted James Marsden, because James Marsden, when he's not in the Cyclops gear, just has a very plain, ordinary look to him. He's a handsome man, but he's got a very plain, non-offensive way about him, and Sonic needed a straight man. And he plays a great straight man in this movie. I think he did a pretty average to just above average job of interacting with a CGI character. There wasn't a lot of them trying to figure out how to shoot the thing because he doesn't know where to look anymore, which you see in some of these. And to her credit, so does Tika Sumpter.
This wasn't quite as good as Matthew Lillard in the Scooby-Doo movie.
Right.
Because despite Scooby-Doo looking like crap in that movie, Lillard having to interact with nothing but, plush
a
green
tennis ball on a stick.
Yeah, God bless Lillard for the work he put in to make that feel organic, because that remains one of the high watermarks for me.
Right. And so, if that's the 10, and 1 is, who knows? I'm sure you can come up with something. I would give Marsdale 6 or 7. I mean,
7 seems about right.
Yeah, I didn't think he looked askew too many times.
Well, this wasn't the first time doing a role where he was communicating the whole time with a CGI character. Did you two ever have to suffer through Hop, that Easter Bunny film?
Negative.
Can't say I have.
I did, because my mother and my aunt actually wanted to see it because they thought it looked cute. And it still haunts me. That movie was so stupid. But again, Marsden, lead role, playing opposite a CGI Easter Bunny voiced by Russell Brand.
Yeah, who thought that was a good idea?
I don't know.
I just want to take this time to remind everybody we're getting a Peter Rabbit 2 shortly.
Shut up.
I have the same question.
So anyway, I want to talk about, I think a lot has been said about the look of Sonic. And while it didn't offend me personally, but then again, I don't take a lot of that stuff that seriously. When we talked about the trailer, it was like, who gives a shit? But apparently people do, and God bless you.
Mark, even if you have no attachment to Sonic as an IP, the character design for Sonic the Hedgehog that they initially released was so unbelievably awful.
So we work because I can kind of tackle things broadly. You're the one that pays attention to that level of detail. Because let me tell you how I don't. He showed up in that trailer, and if you told me that's exactly how he looked in the video game, which would have been an out-and-out lie, I'd have believed you. Because you want to know the last time I looked at a Sonic the Hedgehog? I just, it doesn't stay with me. So, Sonic looked fine. I thought the voice actor did a great job with the voice work. The plot of this thing, such as it was, it's essentially it's a road movie. It's the power of friendship. We got to get Sonic attached to a straight man and get him and that straight man in the car and off on the road to have wacky adventures. And such as it was to get to that point, I thought it all worked and it all flowed pretty well. I really actually liked the baseball scene. That's that coming to the cognitive almost dissonance.
You can only delude yourself for so long.
Right. That crashing down of the illusion that he wasn't alone and that he in fact is very much alone, and him, having a Forrest Gump moment of I just need to run, and he runs so hard and so fast he causes a blackout. I actually thought that was very well written and very well done.
It is. I can, as a profoundly lonely person, it really is.
The editing in that scene alone was great, because we start off with a brief cut of him rushing and running to every position, but eventually they just start cutting it so they make it look like he is in every position and not actually running it. It reminded me a lot of that Pixar short with the old man playing chess by himself.
I love that one.
After a while, you actually kind of forget that it's just one guy. And again, I thought that was very good editing.
I was thinking of the Bugs Bunny cartoon. And now at first base, Bugs Bunny, pitcher, Bugs Bunny, catcher, Bugs Bunny.
Classic.
Yes. So let's talk about Jim Carrey. And it's already been said that he was channeling the Ace Ventura 90s. And I think I remember Jim Carrey in the 90s a little bit more broadly, a little bit differently. I think he was very much exaggerated, very much more exaggerated, from everything from the Ace Ventura movies to Liar Liar to The Mask. And one of the things I said to my wife, because we were talking about that, and she, like you guys, more of a child of the 90s than I was. Although Jim Carrey was not her thing, she's more of an Adam Sandler person.
Ow!
We marry who we marry. And I love her for it. But we were talking about, like, Jim Carrey in this one sort of playing broadly versus Jim Carrey in the 90s at the height of his powers, his comedic powers. And I actually thought he was more restrained in this. That I thought he fashioned, instead of just, I'm doing broad comedic, wild movements with my arms and legs, and the only thing about this character is the costume I'm wearing, I actually thought he created a character that just acted that way. You see the difference?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think the best way I saw it summed up was I think it was from Jeff Harris actually, who said he's less playing Robotnik and he's more playing, and I say that just if you know anything about the character of Robotnik, this is a very different take on him. He's channeling he's more channeling that kind of, Ace Ventura energy, but into a different character. This is not Ace Ventura with a mustache.
Right.
This is very much a different character, but the energy is very similar.
Yeah, I think Jim Carrey is actually a hell of an actor. I think he's one of the best out there, and I'll stand by that. I mean, I think his dramatic work is near the top of modern cinema. But I think
I'll agree with you on that. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I love his portrayal of Andy Kaufman. I mean, the Truman Show.
Such a good movie.
He hits the wall in the Truman Show and realizes that
there's
nowhere else to go. His world is flat. The look on Jim Carrey's face as he just mentally falls apart in that scene. I mean, it's incredible.
Where the boat hits the wall and
Yeah.
he suddenly and they cut. It's so weird because they don't really cut. You don't see him clearly. You see him on a computer screen or on a TV screen with other people looking at him, but you still feel that weight as he starts pounding on the wall.
The bulk of
nowhere else to go.
I love that shot because the bulk of it is his back. They don't linger on his face, so that when you do see it, it actually carries much more of an impact. And he's just kind of impotently hammering at this painted reality. Like I really hoped I was wrong.
So Jim Carrey has enough clout in Hollywood now to where, if he doesn't have to do a minstrel routine anymore to get work. He can take the parts that he wants, and when he gets there, I think he's given enough freedom to create something memorable for the screen, and I think that's what happened here. Is the director of this thing, who is Jeff Fowler. I mean, I think he came in with his lines, more or less memorized, or the beats of the lines memorized, and he was given the freedom to create something, and it worked. And that's what I was picking up from a lot of his scenes, was that he created this sort of Sheldon Cooper-ish, I'm so smart and I'm surrounded by dummies character. And yeah, there was a little bit of the I'm not made of bones, wiry, flapping hands routine. But it never goes outside of the box the film is filmed in. If you know what I mean?
No, the closest, I think the only scene where it comes close to getting outside of those lines is that one where he's listening to, it's after the hedgehog quill blows up his power source. And he's doing that really funky dance, and the camera inverts a little bit, and that scene, that gets really close to being too much.
I almost feel like that's a studio note. But that was a reshoot.
Are we talking about the scene where Agent Stone comes in behind him and he freaks out? It's like, I thought you wanted a latte with Gold Mills. Like, what do you think? I'm an idiot? Of course I want a latte. I love the way you make them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that whole sequence is saved by the fact that it is broken up. Again, initially he starts going into, he's going to have the music going and it's going to get all goofy, and then the quill blows out his breakers in his traveling lab. Yeah,
so that scene doesn't go too long.
No, it doesn't go too long, and it has appropriate breaks to stop it from being, because again, it kind of gets close to wacky Jim Carrey being wacky Jim Carrey, but it gets reeled in just enough to never quite cross that line.
And that's what I liked about it.
What did you guys think of that weird scene where he pretends he's skiing or he's running away from the That was so bizarre. Just suddenly he's got a computer screen behind him that's projecting a 3D T-Rex, and he's pretending to run away and get his head chopped off, and I'm sort of going, okay, not,
I'm pretty sure that's all the same scene.
Yeah, I just remember looking at that going, not angry at see Jim Carrey act like a total spaz, because, you want to see Jim Carrey act like a total spaz in a film like this, but what the hell is this?
That's my point. I don't think that scene was originally in the movie. I think that, a studio executive saw a rough cut of this thing, and they were like, this is fine and all, and Jim Carrey's funny, but we don't see, where's the Ace Ventura stuff? where's the mask? And they were like, go back and let's schedule some reshoots. And let's get Jim Carrey really working on screen. Let's get him, and everyone in the room just like, fuck, whatever. And then, so they asked Jim Carrey to come in. They were like, can you give us 5 minutes of you bumble fucking around this truck? And he was like, yep.
He went, sure.
And literally, it was like, what do you want from me? He was like, literally bumble fuck the truck. And he was like, yep, just hit it, just say action.
Well, yeah, apparently I was reading an interview. There were several takes where they just said, okay, here's the music that's going to be playing in the background. Here's what the scene is. Go.
Yeah.
Jeff Fowler, he's a visual effects artist. He has only directed one other thing, and it was a short. This is his first, feature-length film. And it's clear that when they brought in Jim Carrey, he's like, okay, then we're just going to have Jim Carrey be Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
They just wanted that. And you know what? It works. There are certain movies where you need Jim Carrey to be a character, and there are certain films where you say, oh, for God's sakes, just go give him some caffeine and let him go have fun.
But, but that's the thing about this, is that Jim Carrey didn't go crazy. Jim Carrey was, we talk about this like with wrestling, where you have to be smart enough to know how to reel in the audience and when to turn it on, when to turn it off, when to get heat, when to do this, when to do that. And that's where I think Jim Carrey is one of the best out there, is that he didn't use this as an opportunity to unzip his pants, throw his cock out, and be like, all right, here we go, woo! And wave it around like a lasso, like he normally would. Like in his 90s features. This was him going,
Mitch, I really didn't need that.
You're welcome. This was more of Jim Carrey going, they're paying me to do a job. I want this to be successful. Because he's got like his Showtime show where he can do dramatic stuff, and he really does have like his pick of the litter. So I would imagine that in Jim Carrey's mind, he's like, I really need to take this seriously and not be a complete asshat, because if this works, it's a franchise that'll pay a lot of money, and it'll allow me to go off and do, my Showtime show and other stuff that isn't gonna have the audience that this thing is potentially gonna have. So I respected that. That was what I drew from his performance.
Also, when it comes to Jim Carrey's performance, I also really liked that. While this might sound really weird, given that this character literally has a mustache that he might twirl on occasion, he's not evil just to be evil. They actually go out of their way to kind of create a bit of a character.
Yeah, he
has a point of view. He's not just there to twirl the mustache and tie the damsel in distress to the radio tracks and go, meh.
Well, he's not out to rule the world. He was sent on a mission, and then he's realized
kind of to rule the world, but...
he figures out that, yes, he's been given this task to capture this alien, but once he realizes how powerful the alien, he was like, I could use him. This is fantastic. Win-win.
Yeah.
Anyone else thought that was I thought that was actually kind of an interesting tie into the game. Robotnik's thing in the games was using animals to power his machines. That's why every time you killed a robot in the games, cute little bird or squirrel or pig or something would run out. So I just thought it was kind of interesting. It's like, okay, so, that sort of ties into that. He wants to plug Sonic in and power his machines, essentially.
Yep. No, I thought it was a good tie into what I remember of the game. I didn't remember that detail, but that all tracks. Just to finish up my part, and then I'll turn it over to you guys. Robert and I talk about, some of the secondary and tertiary characters in movies. They just become jokes. And certainly the sister was a type. But I have to say, for a visual effects director, for a visual effects person who's directing his first feature, and his use of characters and not overstaying their welcome or overplaying the joke, I actually thought this was quite a restrained film. Like, it moves at a very brisk pace. I mean, this thing was 99 minutes, just a little over an hour and a half. And once it gets going, once Sonic and James Marsden meet and they have that whole thing and they're on the road and running, the movie really doesn't slow down all that much. And the bits where they pull away from them and they do stuff with the sister and there's other things happening here, I actually thought were used really, really well. Like, this doesn't seem like a first-time feature director who doesn't know when to turn the goddamn camera off. This actually felt very tight. This felt very restrained, very streamlined. And I think that's why it worked for the audience it was intended for. It didn't lose anybody. And, and I think the adults were having a good time with this as well. The ones who were there with children, not the professional reviewers who were there in the middle of the day with no children. Because, boy, is that a whole other experience.
Hey, I saw this in nearly the middle of the day, and I don't think there were... I think there was like one other family in the theater, and they were blessedly quiet.
I'm kind of making fun of Whitney Seibold, who was like, one for Sonic, please. It's just like professional critic, no children, seeing this in the middle of the day seems a little neckbeardy. But it's all good. If I had to say something negative about it, I mean, it's a very simple plot. There's not a whole lot here. I suppose, and maybe this is where you'll chime in, if you think too hard about it, maybe there's something stupid or doesn't make sense, but it followed a simple line of logic to get us from one end to the other, and it resolved pretty neatly. Kids movie, based on a video game. The bar is low. This overshot it by a week and a half. I think that's a success.
I do have a couple of minor quibbles, but they're relatively minor. So, Alexis, what do you want to touch on?
There is just one negative thing that I think we can all agree on with this film, and it's a minor thing, but it does need to be touched on. The product placement.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. The Zillow and the Olive Garden scenes, I looked down at the floor. It was just like, oh my God, are you kidding?
Hey, they had to spend an extra like $8 million they didn't plan on. I will forgive them having to recoup that.
Yeah. Even the Olive Garden one, I'll admit, made me chuckle a little bit, but that Zillow one, that was clearly inserted to try to make back the money they spend on the CGI.
Can I let me say
I mean,
something
at least they'd make jokes about Olive Garden. Like, that feels like an organic part of the movie, of the people actually like, no, I like Olive Garden. What are you talking about? But I mean, sure, no one really likes Olive Garden, but that felt okay, but
you don't get to talk about product placement until you have experienced the fourth Transformers movie.
Oh, God.
Is that the one where, with the beer truck incident?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen that scene.
They literally shot a beer commercial in the movie.
Yeah, I showed that to Andre Watson. We were both just kind of like, are you kidding me?
So
and there was that real slow-mo as they like dove through a bus, and the side of the bus was an ad for Victoria's Secret or something.
Yeah. So until you reach Michael Bay levels of product placement, I mean, this thing was darn right subtle.
Yeah, I think it was more on track with Power Rangers level of product placement, the Krispy Kremes stuff that was thrown into that one.
That was brilliant.
No, okay, I did not play a lot of Sonic growing up because I was a Nintendo girl, and I was joking with Robert about this when we were doing another review, that I always had trouble playing Sonic games because we got to the scene where Sonic would start drowning, and I am still haunted by that music. Robert, I swear to God, you do that one more time and you're off my Christmas card list.
I'm on your Christmas card list?
Not if you do it again! No, but, I remember watching that first...
I'm gonna have to send you that, like, a video clip, a YouTube clip of that now, just...
I will fly out to Utah and I will kill you.
No, you won't.
Oh,
right.
Oh my God, guys.
I'll take the risk.
Oh, God.
So, Sonic is drowning, or, yes, Nintendo. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Kenny Omega, go.
Yeah, it's like, wait, you're blending franchises here. No, I was a Nintendo girl. I was brought up on Mario, not Sonic. But, I know just how great Sonic is. I know how close he is to a lot of people's childhood. I have seen the Game Grumps lose their ever-loving minds playing Sonic 06, and my God,
The less said about that game, the better.
Oh, I know. It's still one of my favorite Aaron Hansen moments that he just broke down screaming, "You got to know when to draw the line and say no." And that quote has been taken out of context, and people think he's saying something deep and meaningful. It's like, no, he's screaming this at the top of his lungs. He's run into another glitch in that game. But anyway, I remember seeing the first trailer for this and thinking this was going to be the biggest piece of shite in the history of mankind. Yeah, hated the design of the first Sonic. I didn't know why they
What was with those teeth?
I didn't know. What was with those? They gave him a runner's body. They actively said, we're trying to make him look more like a runner. It's like, you don't make Sonic look like a runner. We don't want...
He's got 4-inch legs.
Yeah, we don't want Sonic to look more like, Usain Bolt. We don't want that.
I would have accepted that if they'd actually given him the proper leg length. Have you seen... Apparently part of the inspiration they were going for that original design was Ted from that terrible, terrible movie with Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, yeah, Seth MacFarlane's directorial debut.
Piss on that man and all he's done.
Yeah, the first few seasons of Family Guy are still good in my opinion. But anyway, I remember I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to put in Gangster's Paradise by Coolio, as great as that song is. And then you got Jim Carrey doing his lines, and I'm thinking, okay, so it's Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey, but that doesn't seem like Robotnik, and I have no idea what the hell they're doing, to the point that there was a running joke. That first trailer had that one, 2-second cut of Carrey with his head shaved with a crazy mustache like we see in the end credit scene. And we were all joking, yeah, they threw that in because they have to pray to God that that's enough to entice us to go see this film. I was so convinced this movie was going to be the biggest blight of the year. And then they went back in and redid it, and I saw the redesign. I thought, well, that actually looks really good. And, that's exactly the way I would want Sonic to look. And thank God the eyes aren't joined like they do in the comics, because, frankly, that always freaked me the hell out.
Ah, come on. Sonic only has one eye. It's just got 2 pupils.
The co-creator of Sonic actually said that was his one disappointment. He didn't like that they separated his eyes.
On the plus side, and kudos to the people on the redesign, they do lighten that area of fur between his eyes down there near the bottom to be visually close enough to kind of get the point across.
Yeah. So I saw the redesign, and I thought, okay, this actually looks good. And, yeah, we were talking about this earlier. I was kind of amazed that the studio was willing to do this. So often we get films, I'm thinking that horrible Cats film.
That amazing Cats film.
Mark,
You
stop.
start on the cat puns, and I'm quitting the show under protest. So,
That would be a catastrophe.
Robert, should I hit the quit button?
If you were going to hit it, you'd have hit it a long time ago.
Good point.
This is your life now.
I was thinking about how people complained in the trailers about the CGI, and the studio said, oh, it'll look fine. And then the movie came out, and everyone said, no, the CGI still looks like shit. So they essentially did a video game patch for the movie. And it just kind of made me think that's how so many studios, they would have done that. They would have said, oh, Sonic will look fine. Just wait till the final movie, and then they'd release the patch. No, they fixed it beforehand. And I could be wrong, but I am 99% sure that is the first time a studio has done that. That they have listened to the
Certainly
fan
to this,
to that level.
yeah, certainly to this level, absolutely. I mean, they were able to do this fast enough. I almost wonder if when they were designing Sonic, they didn't have 4 or 5 different character models. Like, okay, we're going to pick one of these. And the one we got was one of the ones they looked at and went, no, it's too much like the video game. Let's go with this quasi-realistic anthropomorphized alien hedgehog. Because, boy, howdy, is that a good mashup of words.
Hang on. I say again, they were shooting for let's make a real life Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, this is one of those things where you get this in comic book movies, and a lot of other famous IP where the studio has a vision of what they think they want to do for whatever their reasons are, and it goes in conflict with what the fan base wants. The fan base wants to see the IP as they know it on screen. The studio, for some weird reason, is really committed to photorealism.
They go to Galactus.
And to their defense, The Lion King is the second highest grossing movie of last year. So there's something to their argument.
There's really not.
It did not work out nearly the way they wanted to with Sonic the Hedgehog.
That has only worked for The Lion King. Let's be very clear about that.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But okay,
one point of data.
But in the years we've been doing this, there's a tendency for studios to take 1 point of data and go, everything is that. I mean, The Avengers. Oh my God, a team movie made up of other movie characters. Everything is that. And really.
You really would have thought that this many years after the first Avengers movie and how many catastrophic failures that there have been, that people would start to realize you can't unreasonably extrapolate from a single point of data. It's going to wind up costing you money. A lot of it if you're a movie studio.
Well, I guess if they had learned their lesson, Hollywood would be in a different position. But I just wanted to give that sort of psychological background here. They're thinking photorealistic Sonic, and everybody else is going, no, stupid. What we saw in the game, that's what we want, and we don't care how cartoonish it looks.
I really wish I could have been a fly on the wall. There had to be somebody. There had to be one person in that room going, this is a bad idea.
Right, but he's not allowed to talk or he'll get fired.
No, it's kind of like that meme, where it's a panel and it's one guy saying, okay, we need to do something. You have two people say just common ideas. One person says something out of the box, and then it cuts to them being thrown out the window.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to make a Sonic movie, photorealistic, only set on Earth. How about we just make the video game? Out the window with that guy.
Right.
But the truth is, this movie does play it out. These guys were smart enough, thank God, to keep the humor really tongue-in-cheek. And I am so grateful for that. You got that whole scene with them in the dive bar, and it's so hilarious how they're just playing up only like two people notice that Sonic looks like Sonic the Red. No one else seems to notice it. And that's good. That's what we want. We want cartoony Sonic to get away with this kind of stuff. Again, Tom gets labeled a domestic terrorist, and yet he is able to walk into the Transamerica Pyramid Building in San Francisco. Pretty sure that doesn't work like that.
It really doesn't.
No, it doesn't. And, oh my God, Jim Carrey what did I say when we did that review earlier this week? There are two actors in Hollywood who you want to see just chew the holy hell out of the scenery. Jim Carrey and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yep.
And it is so great to see Carrey back doing that kind of stuff. Not that I'm against his dramatic acting. Again, Truman Show, amazingly brilliant film. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, probably one of my top 5 all-time favorite romantic films. But seeing him in his element, going insane, running around, flailing his arms, talking fast, the scene where he's chewing out Neil McDonough, it's like no one cares that your mama is happy for you that you could read past a 3rd grade level. Have you finished Charlotte's Web? Spoiler alert, she dies.
Neil McDonough's face when he says that too. Like there's just the slightest hint that maybe he hadn't actually finished it yet.
No, that was so... I love the line. It's like, is he still looking at me funny? Tell him to stop it or I'll pull up his search history. That was a great line. Just, this movie plays it so fast and they keep it loose and it's a lot of fun. They did not take themselves too seriously and I'm eternally grateful for that. There's a couple of lines that, I rolled my eyes at. A couple of scenes where I'm going, oh God, that was a stupid idea. I think the scene of them nearly hitting the mime in Paris was like, wow, that was really annoying. But this is a very fun movie. It's not, I don't think it's gonna, be like anyone's gonna say, "Oh my God, that movie was brilliant." It's not. But this is one of those films. It was a lot of fun to go see. Good waste of $10 for a ticket, and definitely, I'm agreeing with Mark on this. If you've got kids, take them to see the film. This movie was made for families. They're gonna really enjoy it.
All right, Robert, tie us up.
I agree with the vast majority of what's been said. There's really very few things I can nitpick. Again, there's the one sequence where Jim Carrey's Robotnik strays really close to eye-rolling Jim Carrey performance, but they never quite crossed that line, so fair play. Sonic being revived by the literal power of friendship seems a bit trite, even for a kid's movie. I felt like that needed something other than Tom saying, "No, he was my friend," and yay, friendship! Now Sonic is revived. I just needed something. I needed something else there. This movie leaves a lot on the table, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. There's a lot of room to do stuff in a sequel. At the same time, it does leave a lot of the stuff in this movie very unexplained. And again, I know it's a kid's movie. Even for a kid's movie, Sonic's power randomly exploding based on his emotional state feels like it needed at least some kind of point to be addressed.
So let me quick weigh in on that. This is somewhat akin to our, and I feel like almost every other podcast, either Star Wars or Age of Extinction. But there was a conversation we had about time and what you want to include and what you don't want to include. And I'm sure in the development process there was a discussion of, hey, there's a lot of plot contrivances here, not a lot of explanation, and someone in the room had to have said at one point, kids hate exposition. What they want to see is Sonic doing Sonic stuff. So
okay.
you have an extended chase scene, you have the bar scene, and you have the third act. And you still have to take a few breaks to let the film breathe. How much exposition, how much room in 90 minutes did you have for any more exposition than what they gave, and what are you cutting at that point?
I think you can just add a small scene. Something in the car where Sonic just kind of notes that these things seem to be tied to his emotions, but he doesn't really understand them.
See, I'm actually okay with it not really being explained. We learn that his quills are supercharged as a part of him. If he was running fast enough and building up that level of energy over and over and over again, yeah, I mean, I am not a physicist. I, flunked most of my science classes in school, but I'm pretty sure that it is possible if he was going fast enough and circling the same area that many times in that quick of a period, his energy would build up like that. So
yeah, I'm okay. Again, I'm okay with a lot of it. I don't need anything major. I just, something to almost where Tom knows that, okay, I need to appeal. Sonic isn't dead. He's really struggling, though. And Tom knows that he has to appeal to him on an emotional level. So he does the same kind of reveal where, maybe instead of Sonic again looking dead on the pavement, he and Sonic are kind of nose to nose. Robotnik's kind of glowering down at them from his machine, and he just says, "Hey, since we're about to die, you really can scratch that last thing off your bucket list because we are friends." And you've at least set up a little bit that Sonic's emotional state somehow ties into his powers, and that's. I just needed a little bit. I don't need a whole lot here. I agree with you. I don't need a 30-minute exposition dump. But they're in that car for a while, and you could have snuck in a short little sequence where they discuss it a bit.
Or you can have him do a gag where he runs through the largest ball of rubber band.
I didn't hate that. Again, I just think there's a little bit extra you could have given here, and I don't think you would have lost anything.
I don't disagree with your premise. I think, one, it's our level of film criticism and our ages that latched onto that. 99.9% of the people who saw this movie didn't care. And look, you said before, I'm on this podcast, I'm going to give my opinion, and your opinion is valid. I don't disagree with you. I'm just pointing out that in the film math, when you look at audience plus time divided by film craft, you're probably going to lose perfectly plausible exposition.
Again, I get it. I just think I genuinely think you could have added 2 minutes to the total runtime of this movie to do a little something. What
do you think
that.
This is Schindler's List? You want this to be
101
101 minute long?
We go from 99 to 101.
Jesus Christ, dude! This isn't Return of the King.
You took your children to 4-hour event Endgame. Shut up.
I saw that 3 times in the theater.
Moving right along.
Footloose and fancy free.
Getting there is half the fun. Come share it with me.
Moving right along.
One of my favorite songs.
Okay, let me think if there was anything else I had.
There was one other thing. This is a minor thing, but I'm just going to say it. Going into this film, I was going to, within the first 5 seconds, I knew I was going to be upset if they didn't find some way to work the Sega chime, for lack of better words.
Mm-hmm.
Who else was thrilled that they actually found a way to work that into the Sega film logo? That was great.
Yeah, I was down for that. I'll be really disappointed if this doesn't lead to the next 4 movies being Sonic 2, Super Mario Brothers, Legend of Zelda, and then we get a Smash Brothers movie.
There's talk about them doing like a video game interconnected universe type thing.
I'm just saying you
did well enough.
I'm just saying you could very easily take the MCU setup, have Sonic be Iron Man in terms of film releases, and let's just do Sonic 2, Zelda, Super Mario Brothers, and that'll basically get us to the first Super Smash Brothers movie, which is the analog to the Avengers.
Book it, Dano. All right, anything else? Otherwise, let's move on.
Let me... Yeah, again, there's a lot of sequel baiting going on here, but I think we can all kind of live with it. I'm looking forward to the next one, where I assume Tails shows up. We deal with the Echidnas.
Maybe a hint of the Chaos Emeralds.
Almost certainly, because Tails shows up and has similar abilities to Sonic, different but similar. So we're probably going to get some relationship between these types of supercharged beings and the Chaos Emeralds, which will hopefully lead us to Knuckles, because Knuckles was always kind of my guy. The big dumb idiot.
I just want to know when we're going to get to Shadow the Hedgehog.
No, you don't.
Shut up.
And on that note, here we go. Here comes
Edgelord.
Here comes the money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money,
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
All right, Sonic the Hedgehog on a budget of, on the high end, $95 million, has, at the time of this recording, made $128.3 million. It set the record for the biggest opening weekend by a video game-based film ever in the United States and Canada.
That's
Ryan Reynolds, once
like
again,
the lowest hurdle in the history of mankind.
unbelievably low hurdle, but once again, Ryan Reynolds can suck it.
Let's
Although
see.
it does occur to me that various Pokemon are in Super Smash Bros., so there would probably have to be a crossover at some point.
In the United States and Canada, the film was released alongside the film that I wanted to review, Fantasy Island.
You didn't want to review that.
For the Photograph and Downhill. and was initially projected to gross between 40 and 50 million from 4,130 theaters in its 4-day President's Day opening weekend. After making 21 million on its first day, estimates were raised to 64 million. It went to top the box office with a 58 million debut over the 3-day weekend and 70 million over the 4, breaking Detective Pikachu's record for the biggest opening weekend by a video game-based film. It was the 4th best President's Day holiday weekend and Jim Carrey's second biggest opening weekend behind Bruce Almighty. Scott Mendelson of Forbes surmised the film's success could in part be attributed to reactions to the initial trailer and then the follow-up redesign creating significant publicity. Furthermore, the subsequent release reschedule resulting from the delay worked in the film's favor by having it released in much less competitive film market during a dump month where it became the first major family film of 2020. Fantastic. So, let's talk about the weekend. Everybody's working for the weekend. From the 14th through the 16th, Sonic was number 1, as we talked about. So, yay for Paramount Pictures. One less week that you're in danger of being bought by Disney. It knocked Harley Quinn from 1 to 2. Fantasy Island debuted at number 3, The Photograph number 4. Bad Boys for Life got knocked all the way down from 2 to 5.
Should have fallen further.
1917 fell from 3 to 6. Parasite, the Best Picture winner. Parasite, the film that everyone went, what the hell was that just won Best Picture? Jumped up in a bunch more theaters.
That is only a reaction to that movie if you're the kind of ignoramus and Philistine that never sees.
Have you seen the video of the
movies.
one neckbeard screaming about how that shouldn't have won Best Picture?
Oh,
Yeah,
mean
he's an
rally?
idiot.
I got none of that, Alexis. What?
I said, oh, you mean at the Trump rally?
No. There's actually there's like a YouTube review where this guy's argument is that this should not have won Best Picture because it won Best Foreign Language kind of thing.
Oh,
Wait,
no, I was talking about how yesterday's Trump rally, and I think it was in Colorado, him complaining about how the film, how he got Best Picture, and he feels that they were basically pandering to South Korea. Because we have a horrible trade situation there with them. And he's saying, whatever happened to films like Gone with the Wind and Sunset Boulevard?
Trump would be an amazing president if he didn't speak publicly.
And you took away his tweets.
I would, in all seriousness, I'd deal with his public speaking if his Twitter would go away.
Yeah, I trade that. Look, nobody gives a shit what Trump thinks of movies. I'm sure he hasn't seen. I'm sure he hasn't seen a movie since Porky's. So
and I just laughed. It's like of course he hates a film with subtitles. You ever seen him try to read off of a teleprompter? He can't read.
So this guy did this whole video. He had 2 lines of logic. One was, it won Best Foreign Language. It shouldn't have won Best Picture. The second line of logic is that the Joker should have won Best Picture. It speaks more to the current socio-political climate.
This current socio-political climate is not it should not be a consideration for awarding Best Picture.
I know, but he's a dumbass.
Okay,
Yeah,
so one of this guy's points of logic is you should not be nominated for multiple Best Pictures. If you're going to be Best Animated or Best Foreign Language, you should not be eligible for Best Picture.
Yep.
Fair enough. There's actually a degree of logic to that point. Sadly, there's well-established precedent within the Academy for ignoring it.
Right.
So you're just, again, you are historically ignorant at this point. And your second point is I disagree. Wah? Shut up.
Yeah. I want to shoot people, too, on national television. I wish Joker had won, was essentially his argument.
Look, if this wasn't Parasite, it was going to be 1917, and I might argue 1917 should have won, but that's a different story.
I was going to say, if you want to pick a movie it's like they already tried that, and it's called Moonlight, and it's called everyone sat there and said, wow, you guys caved to pressure.
The other side of this is that, from what I understand,
year,
Parasite does speak to the socio-political climate. It's about classism, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of.
Okay, let's move on. Jumanji dropped from 5 to 8. Doolittle.
For the record, that director, most of his movies try in a very ham-fisted way to simply exposit on his belief system about how the socioeconomical status is rather than actually trying to prove the point.
But that's
Same
a lot
guy who
of
directed.
films.
Same guy who directed Snowpiercer, which in a lot of ways, great movie.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't actually try to prove its point so much as go look at my worldview.
Okay, that's a lot of filmmakers. Number one. Number two, I'm just happy that there are films with a point and not a collection of explosions. I don't know where I just went because I'm still Mark Radulich, but I'm back now.
I was going to say.
I seem to have stepped outside myself for a moment. Doolittle.
You enjoy that trip to the UFO there, Mark? Because some horrible replicant was down here talking for you.
I don't know what they did, but my ass feels funny.
Melissa, go check the basement for pods.
It's Florida. There are no basements. The basements is where the alligators are. Doolittle, 4-9. Downhill.
Also, it's Florida. They're all pod people.
Debuted at number 10. The Gentleman dropped from 6 to 11. Knives Out, 10 to 12. Little Women, 8 to 13. Gretel and Hansel fell from 7 to 14.
Do that joke every time we bring up that movie, aren't
Hi,
you?
I'm fucking Mark. I beat jokes to death. Hang on one second. Here's a horse sound.
You don't have the horse sound.
No, I played it. You guys just can't hear it.
Will it be on the recording?
Yes.
Okay, then we're good.
Way to break the fourth wall there, dude.
Hey, we recorded source material a week ago. It's not being released until Monday.
No, it's released live on Monday. Time travel.
It is absolutely not.
Mark, we talked
Be
about
Be
this.
grateful. We talked for like 3 hours.
I know. Jesse's fucking traumatized.
He is not.
I got a message after that. I'm like, fuck, that was 3 hours. And I'm like, better you than me.
Jesse actually messaged I've been editing for hours and I'm not even to the Sonic black hole yet.
On the plus side, that's about an hour. You can just lop out of there.
Jesse's too nice. He doesn't have my ability to scream, will you get on with it, that everyone loves about me. Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, fell from 9 to 15. That's on Disney Plus, by the way. Jojo Rabbit, 12 to 16. Frozen 2, 15 to 17. Just Moisey, 13 to 18. The Toining, 14 to 19. Spies in Disguise, 17 to 20.
Okay, just real quickly about the Rise of Skywalker. My favorite meme about not just that movie, but the entire new trilogy is actually a Family Guy riff. You remember that scene where Meg screams at the rest of her family? You always think you're better than me. Then we cut over to them seated around, and they're all in fancy dress.
Yes, it's all over Facebook.
It's one of the single worst episodes of all time.
Yeah, that bit is hilarious though. But no, this is just Star Wars 7, 8, and 9 as Meg. Then Chris is like the Star Wars 1 through 6. Peter's the Mandalorian, and Lois is the Clone Wars.
Perfect.
You always act like you're better than me, and they're all just sitting there in fancy clothes yeah, so we are.
All right, we can start talking about the 2020 worldwide box office here because now it actually starts to matter. Bad Boys is still at number 1 with 372. Doolittle is actually is in the second place spot. It won't stay there by the end of the year.
It won't stay there by the end of next week.
But it's currently holding the number 2 spot so yay for the little engine that could.
It can't.
Birds of Prey has caused a mass suicide at Warner Brothers as it remains in the third position.
Boy, I hope so.
Just guy's throwing himself out the windows like the stock market crash in 1930. Had 152 million. Sonic makes its way onto the board at 4th place with 128 million. And then after that, it's just a race to the bottom. The Gentleman, The Grudge, Underwater, Like a Boss, Robert Winfree's favorite movie of the year so far, Fantasy Island, and Gretel and Hansel. Hansel?
I'm pretty sure you're still ignoring a giant chunk of foreign movies for your list, but
movies don't exist outside of the United States, especially because of the coronavirus.
Boy, I wish that were true. Then Venom never would have got a sequel.
There it is. Mark it on your bingo card. And in case anyone was wondering, the Rhythm section, starring Blake Lively...
No. Stop. No one cares.
Sure they do.
No one.
Listen, action
Blake
movies...
Lively was not willingly in that movie. She was drugged and hypnotized into a performance that she does not remember.
Listen,
no one cares.
I don't know why you hate women, but action movies led by women are an important part of the modern cinema. So people should go see the rhythm section.
So important that the rhythm section is cratering at historic levels.
Sure is, Ollie. Oh, tell me, where did you sleep
Inside
last
out 3
night?
miles away.
Tell me, where did you sleep last night, rhythm section? That's actually a Leadbelly song.
I'll take your word for it.
That Nirvana covered for their Unplugged show. Tell me, where did you sleep last night, Winfree?
Look, there's only one good thing that Nirvana's ever done that was allow Weird Al to cover Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Terrific. All right, so next week. So the question becomes, how long does Sonic reign supreme before something else comes along and eats into its box office? Tomorrow, we've got, let's see here, The Call of the Wild. That's in wide. I'm only going to do the wide releases here. We've got Call of the Wild, and we've got Brahms the Boy 2. And that's it. So it's got a pretty clear path because I don't see anyone who's wanting to go see Sonic the Hedgehog wanting to also see Call of the Wild or know what a Brahms the Boy is.
Sonic actually looks more realistic than the dog in Call of the Wild.
He really does.
The Invisible...
That said, I don't think there's a tremendous amount of overlap between people who are going to see the further adventures of Han Solo and Chewbacca.
The following week, the week of February 28th, there's only one movie in wide release, and that's The Invisible Man, of which we will be reviewing. Jason tried to give me an out on that one, and I was like, nope, I'm committed. I'm committed because of you, Robert Winfree. I am hopelessly devoted to you.
No, you're not.
Hopelessly devoted to Winfree.
That is inaccurate.
March 6th, we've got Onward. So that's about 2 weeks Sonic has of no real competition before all the competition comes out on March 6th.
Before Pixar.
Before Pixar eclipses the moon. So that's March 6th, along with The Way Back, which is a Ben Affleck sports drama, and something called First Cow.
I prefer to think of it as a time machine developed by a dog.
The week after that, we've got The Hunt, which got delayed due to stuff happening in the new... I forget what was the actual incident that got this delayed. Some sort of shooting, I'm going to imagine. Do you remember?
Which one?
The Hunt.
Which shooting?
It was just no, there was no mass shooting incident that delayed that. It was just a terrible idea.
No, there was a reason that they were like, whoop, let's get this out of theaters right now.
It was never released.
It had a planned release date.
Yeah, it was scheduled.
She's going to
It was pulled after everyone realized, hey, you know what?
No, it wasn't.
This is just a bad idea.
It was postponed following 2 mass shootings.
Thank you. I knew I remembered that right. Anyway, so we've got The Hunt on March 13th that was delayed because of that.
Which is still a terrible idea.
There's I Still Believe, which is a drama music romance from Lionsgate. We've got My Spy, which also got delayed from last year, but not because of a mass shooting. That my daughter wants desperately for me to take her to see.
I'm sure she would love to meet Dave Bautista.
And then finally, oh boy, can't wait for this one. Bloodshot, baby. Vin Diesel.
Mark, please. Save me your stupid gimmicked excitement about this. Just don't. I tolerate it for a lot of stupid stuff. When it comes to this abomination, just don't.
March 20th is A Quiet Place 2. Another one that Jason tried to get me to drop out on. And I was like, nope, hopelessly devoted to Robert Winfree. I'm going to go see this thing.
I actually don't have a lot of hope for that.
Believe me, there's a part of me that wants to beg that we kick this off the schedule, but I won't do it. I'm committed. Oh, look, Braveheart's back in theaters, March 22nd.
Dude,
Why?
anniversary release, I think.
That's right, 25th anniversary. We lost a lot of good horses that day. I love that movie.
It's a great movie. One of the most underappreciated soundtracks that you'll find, too.
I used to own the soundtrack to that. All right, so that's so best guesses on final box office takeaway, and then we'll move on to the Rotten Tomatoes reviews. What do you think?
Worldwide, probably 500 million, give or take.
Yeah, that was where I was thinking to say between 400 and 500 million, which would be.
And this thing is. It's not local. It's not in danger of being overly localized. Like, this will play well in Japan, in China, as well. So,
how long do you guys think it'll take before they announce that a sequel's been greenlit? Because they talked about.
I'm shocked it hasn't happened.
Well, I think
the actors have said that they're on board for a sequel, but I would have thought by now we would have heard the studio say, "Yeah, it's been greenlit."
I think all the ideas are there. They're just not ready to make the announcement. Like, I think there's something in like pre-development at this point. But I would also imagine before they go ahead and commit to it, they want to make sure this thing is profitable. And right now, it's not. It's at 120, and the thing is a $100 million movie. So it gets to 400 and 500 million. You'll start to see the announcements made for when the next one comes out. But I think we can all agree, let the low end 400, at the high end 500. I don't think it does better than that.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if this gets to, the 600 or so level.
Agreed. All right. So here we are with the final part of our show.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Dom Nero of Esquire magazine. I don't even know why they have film reviewers. The satisfyingly high-speed velocity gameplay for which Sonic is so beloved is translated into cringy floss dances, fourth wall breaking jokes, and pathetic attempts to appear earnest despite constant snark in the screenwriting.
Okay, yeah, he does floss once. But besides the narration, which thankfully only happens in the beginning and once near the middle, I don't remember any other fourth wall breaking scenes.
Yeah, I don't think there are. Unless you want to count his narration for those brief sequences.
Yeah, it's kind of like what they did with what's the movie? Megamind. We start off with the action scene. It's like, this is me. You want to know how we got here? And then they play the whole movie. And yeah, that's it.
Vincent Schilling of Indian Country Today. Mild, corny humor directed at kids, but the overall saving grace is Jim Carrey as the wildly weird Dr. Robotnik.
See, I disagree with that. Like, that's a great part of the movie, but I don't think it's the saving grace.
Matthew Monagle of Austin Chronicle. It may not be particularly memorable, but in an era where family-friendly movies like Paddington can be a hit across all audiences, Sonic more than manages to hold its own.
That's pretty fair.
Sarah Mars of Laney Gossip. Sonic is not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's just that it sucks if you're an adult.
See, that's not true.
I mean, yeah, it's a family movie, but you don't have to be a little kid to enjoy it.
Yeah, I really don't. There are movies so profoundly stupid that you have to be a child to enjoy them. I don't think this is one of those.
Well, like I said, this is a family film. I think you enjoy more if you're with kids, because you, like Mark did, you feed off of their enjoyment. It's contagious.
Sean Edwards of Fox 4 Kansas City. This guy is desperately trying to get out of Fox 4 Kansas City and into a higher profile job. Unless
I used to work not for Fox 4, but for Channel 5 here in Kansas City. Trust me, this is nobody's end game.
Unless you are under the age of 5 years old, you have no reason to see this movie at all.
Oh, screw you, Pepper.
That's not a whole. Yeah, no. On behalf of people who like video games, get bent.
On behalf of everyone else in Kansas City, go to hell.
Look, the only way he could get more into hell is if he went from Kansas City, Missouri to Kansas City, Kansas.
You were such a nice girl once, and you've been utterly corrupted by us. Well done. Go to hell. That's funny. Okay. Let's see here. I gotta find something that's gonna send Robert into like an apoplectic speech.
You probably won't find it on this movie.
What, no MarySue.com comments?
Well,
No one-
there.
No one's going to be trying... With this movie, no one's going to try too hard to be super edgy or critical, and it's not worth sucking up to the way that the way something like Birds of Prey is.
K. Austin Collins of Vanity Fair. I don't know why you have a movie review section, Vanity Fair. Or why you would send someone to go see Sonic the Hedgehog, but Fowler's Sonic is what it is. Family fun. Which in the U.S., Pixar and Into the Spider-Verse notwithstanding, still tends to mean only sort of fun and adamantly not smart.
Wow.
Ow.
You really want to try and pretend that Into the Spider-Verse is a kid's movie? Are you, sir, or madam, or whatever the hell you are just making a broad generalization about what types of movies what types of audiences animated movies are going for, and you are categorically incorrect.
Why do we keep getting film reviewers who just automatically assume that if it's a family movie, then it's only for little kids?
Because they're trying to get better jobs and invited to more parties. So, Susan Granger of SSG Syndicate. Yes, her. This blue box office blur, a CG live-action video game movie, marks the 60th anniversary of Sega. You wrote this before you saw the movie, lady.
That's it?
Wait, seriously?
What an absolutely bland recitation of pointless facts.
I thought you were building something up. That's all
Nope.
there is.
That's wow. How phone you copy pasted that from the wiki. Like, that's just lazy.
That's not even a review. That's not even like an opinion.
That's why I read it. We are aware, for someone who's just like, but these aren't the whole reviews. Yet we know these are one line or two from the review. But I don't know what went wrong here, because I don't know why she wrote it, and I don't know why Rotten Tomatoes chose it.
Yeah, it's like, you have to write some basic facts about the film that you think your readers might find interesting. And I'm not going to lie, if that was just part of the whole review in general, that would be, a nice little tidbit to throw in there. But why was that chosen as the select quote?
Exactly. Nathaniel Hood of Nate Hood Reviews.
You self-employed loser.
Thank you. Sonic the Hedgehog isn't a movie. It's a 99-minute monstrosity made by corporations for other corporations. You, sir, have forgotten the Transformers movies.
You are trying way too hard, buddy.
Wow, and I thought my complaining about the Zillow and Olive Garden references was bad.
Actually,
yeah, this is a person who is resentful of anyone who has any modicum of success.
I wonder what he thought of the Emoji Movie. Because if he gave this one a 1 out of 10.
He probably thought the Emoji Movie was the height of satire.
It's hilarious because, again, I had to bring up the Zillow and the Olive Garden things, but this film isn't even in the top 10 worst product placement films of all time. It's not even in the
close.
Top 20. I mean, hell, Man of Steel had way worse corporate advertising than this did. I just kind of laughed. I just had to bring up the Zillow and Olive Garden ones because they were blatant as hell.
Matthew Lucas from the front row. The epitome of soulless studio product.
Shut up.
A paint-by-numbers action comedy that feels like the reheated leftovers of an early 2000s buddy comedy.
No. Nothing in the early 2000s for buddy comedies was this witty. I remember I lived through it.
This film wasn't even that much of a tie-in to the game. There was nice little homages here and there, Side note, I forgot to mention, love the scene where Sonic gets a chili dog. That was like a very cute little homage.
Yeah.
But this, there's not even is there a current Sonic game coming out that they're trying to promote?
Not really.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I know that there's been a couple that come out in recent history, but I don't think there's one that's currently they're trying to really push. And side note, if you people are smart, do not make a video game tie into this. For the love of God, don't. We already saw what happened when you tried to make Sonic run around humans, okay? And we're still recovering.
Look, Sonic on Earth can work, but you've just got to be very, very careful about how you do it. But this makes it work. But
Matt Cipolla of The Spool. The Spool. The kind of empty calories that fattens up the audience before leading them to the slaughter.
What's his metaphor for the slaughter?
Yeah, that makes no sense.
That man has an autographed copy of The Lobster in his video collection.
I hate that movie.
It's so bad.
I don't even... Yeah, okay, you want to call this movie harmless junk food? Sure. This movie is harmless junk food. I'm not going to argue against that. But leads it to the slaughter. I don't get what the final metaphor there is.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there with this guy's writing. That's just no.
Our good friend of the show, really, our spiritual leader, Matt Brunson of Creative Loafing.
Why hasn't someone pushed him into traffic yet?
Seeing Jim Carrey back in action made me realize that I didn't really miss him. You're so lonely and angry, Matt.
As a lonely person, even I can get behind some Jim Carrey zaniness on occasion. What the heck?
Who hurt you, Matt Brunson?
I'm sorry.
I don't know who hurt him in the past, but in the future, it's going to be me.
Who doesn't want to just sit down and watch the original Ace Ventura or The Mask?
I mean, in all honesty, one of my favorite comedies is Liar Liar.
That's a good film.
It's the movies where Jim Carrey reins it in just a bit. That was always kind of my problem with the Ace Ventura movies. It's too over the top for me.
Well, see, I like those every now and then. I'm not going to lie. I actually like the second Ace Ventura film. I can't watch it constantly. I can't. But
him escaping from that rhino is...
I never think about that scene. I always think about the scene of him holding the bat and screaming bloody murder, trying to get... It's like, pet detective coming through, clear a path, people! Just, like I said, I can't watch that film on repeat, but every now and then, yeah, that balls to the wall insanity is very welcome.
Nick Johnston of Vanyaland. The film's humor is a blend of garbage, slapstick, and even worse product placement one-liners.
I'm really
not.
I'm really starting to regret complaining about Zillow and Olive Garden at this point.
You were fair. It's a fair criticism to bring up generally, but the notion that they can't shut up about it is profoundly misplaced. I feel like you're trying way too hard to be edgy and anti-capitalist. When you take something like there's one gag early about them going to Olive Garden because hey, Olive Garden might be the closest thing to Italian food in Green Hills, Montana. Who knows? And then that gag paying off at the end with a $50 gift card from the government.
Which, product placement aside, that was freaking hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, it's a small thing, and it's worth noting that, yeah, by the way, they do this, but it's not this does not beat you over the head with it like the Transformers franchise. For God's sake, look at it!
Scout Tafoya of Consequence of Sound. Sonic the Hedgehog can pretend it's in good fun to run amok with branded content, but it isn't fooling anyone. This wasn't a movie. That's a movie. Sorry. This wasn't a movie. It was a boardroom meeting with some poor hapless dreamer strapped to the directed by credits.
I'm not sure that's accurate.
No, that's what Birds of Prey was.
Yeah. Like, this was not a movie by committee. You can see the studio notes a little bit, but Birds of Prey, what was the other one we did last year that we looked at and went, yeah, this was just focus grouped. Like, that's all this was.
There was a movie that I referred to as Studio Notes the movie.
Yeah, which one was it?
Like I said, which one? We've sat through so many bad movies.
The Robin Hood adaptation, the Taron Egerton Robin Hood movie.
Well, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, that was
It
nothing
was?
but studio notes. Yes. Let me look up, see if I can remember what it is.
I feel like there was a more recent one that I referred to as Studio Notes the movie. Here, you keep going. I'm going to read another one of these. Joan Summers of The Muse / Jezebel. Sonic the Hedgehog is a failure of the imagination so catastrophic, so unfathomably antipathetic to the very idea of itself, that sitting down to write this review felt like sawing a hole in my own skull.
Which is roughly akin to reading it.
Is
Thanks.
she around your age? Because I feel like you and her should go steady.
Look, no. That would not work out well.
Both of you could talk about how you want to mutilate yourselves.
Yeah, I'm sorry not every film is color out of space. My God. Again, this is a harmless, junk food, family film.
Jeez, it wasn't... I mean, I suppose you could argue... No, that was Aladdin? Aladdin was a lot of studio notes, but not too many. Godzilla?
No.
Dark Phoenix?
No, we just complained that was a piece of shit.
Men in Black International?
Maybe.
Didn't see
I feel like it was closer to the end of the year.
I know, I'm scared. I mean, Spider-Man Far From Home was a lot of studio notes.
No, none of those.
Hobbs and Shaw?
No.
By the way, Andre finally saw Hobbs and Shaw. I walked in at one point. What were those slap bracelet-like things that they kept using on the bad guys? What were those?
I don't remember. I've blocked much of that from my memory.
Let
me see. It was closer to the end of the year.
Let me read one of Alexis's favorites here. Chris Stuckman of ChrisStuckman.com. There's not a lot of surprises, but I had fun along the way. Good for you, Chris.
Yeah.
Geez, Maleficent had a lot of studio notes.
Yeah. That might have been the one.
Oh, no, Dark Fate. It was Terminator Dark Fate, I think.
Okay, well, that was the one where I said it was Terminator Dark Feminism, but I might have said that Maleficent felt like studio notes the movie.
Unless you wanted to say that about Charlie's Angels.
We never reviewed it.
No, but that is the type of thing you might have said about it.
Nah, I was too busy watching my daughter have a good time to care.
Jumanji had a lot of studio notes.
Phil Villarreal of ABC Tucson. That it even approaches watchability is nothing short of a cinematic miracle.
It's not a miracle, you bunch of idiots. It's not... It might not... Video game adaptations don't have like a giant history of being masterpieces, but they're not that hard to do to the point where they are watchable.
Robert Kodger of Flickering Myth. Sonic the Hedgehog will encourage one to turn on one of the games and repeatedly make him jump onto spikes to his death as revenge.
Sonic is not that obnoxious a character by any stretch of the imagination in this movie. Not even close to the type of guy you want to go shut up and die already. I've seen entirely too many movies with protagonists that obnoxious. This isn't that.
Why do I get the feeling that so many critics were just pissed off that this was another video game adaptation?
Yeah, they were pissed they had to go see it.
Yeah,
all I'm hearing is, this is lack of creativity. This is a sign that the industry is dead. It's like, I'm sorry that you guys clearly were not excited about a video game adaptation, and it's abundantly clear you never played a video game in your damn lives.
Yeah. there's a lot of just like generalized angst directed at this because when I have to review movies for a living. Shut up.
Yes. Well, I don't have a real job and I get to review movies for a living, but I didn't want to do this one. I want to review The Lobster on a weekly basis. Mark, I saw one independent movie and won't let it go. Mark.
I know. I really wish you had another movie to go to talk about.
No, it's all right. That movie is Andre and I rented, and it was just like, who the hell thought any of this was a good idea?
Well, that's not true, because I saw Judy, I saw the Laurel and Hardy movie, I saw Tolkien, so I do see some like independent. But I clearly I like the biopics.
Look, what this guy wanted to review was The Goldfinch on repeat.
Sure.
Oh,
Which was so bad. The Goldfinch was so pretentious, even pretentious film critics went, this is pretentious.
Mark Duchsick of Mark Reviews Movies. Sonic the Hedgehog doesn't need to make a star out of its eponymous figure because he already is. The movie just forgets to make him an actual character. Oh, fuck you.
That is not true at all.
Fuck you.
oy vey.
F-A-H-K, fuck.
Yeah, that's deliberate, willful ignorance of what Sonic is as a character. Like, I don't know. Maybe this particular jackass is just either so comfortable in his loneliness that he doesn't know what it feels like, that he's not aware. Like, he's so lonely, he's like a fish. Like, I'm wet, but I don't know I'm wet. Or he just has enough people around him to never have had to deal with what it feels like to be that alone. And this is a kid's movie. This doesn't get heavy. But I think it treats that kind of isolation and loneliness with the degree of respect it's due.
I agree. Donald Clark of the Irish Times was drunk when he wrote, "They do make garbage like they used
Racist.
to." Yes? Doesn't make any what I said less true.
Oh, no, this guy's an idiot.
They do make garbage like they used to. Sure.
Wait, what?
Wow. Just wow. Like, that is a giant disservice to the movie. To pretend that it's like old
I don't even get it. It's like they do make garbage like the... Okay, what are you comparing it to then? What old garbage?
Yeah.
That's not a context.
The Super Mario show with Captain Lou Albano.
Boy, that was bad.
Josh Spiegel of Slash Film says to Alexis Hejna, Sonic the Hedgehog references Olive Garden twice, and does so with nary a wink at the camera. Ooh, nary.
I'm sorry, do you need someone to actually turn and wink at the camera for you to get what a wink is to the camera?
I could start and end the review with that sentence. What more do you need to know? Ugh.
How about something about the actual movie, you jackass?
Seriously, I will retract any complaints about Olive Garden and Zillow at this point, just to make sure that I am not included in the rest of these assholes' comments.
Oh, they referenced a successful corporate entity in the real world. I must make a stand against this. Workers of the world unite. Socialism, so long as it only benefits me because I'm a short-sighted jackass.
Evan Dacia of Midwest Film Journal. Another shambling 1990s IP gets its shot at relevance. But this unfunny and ultimately dull attempt makes you wonder how so many talented artists made something so lame. So lame. Hang on, don't react to that one. Alistair, writer of The Digital Fix. Those expecting a train wreck on the level of Cats will walk away disappointed. It's a frequently fun family film that will leave younger audiences delighted and surprise older ones convinced it was a disaster in the making. Okay, I wasn't sure where he was going. I just saw Cats. So...
Okay, so those are both morons.
I feel like you just took out all of the air out of Winfree's balloon.
Yeah, Mark deciding, okay, this wasn't good, but he referenced Cats, and I wanted to see if there was something there, and I didn't actually read through. It turns out there was. I'm like, all right. I don't have anything else to say other than, you referenced Cats to try and get a cheap pop. Good for you.
Robbie Collin of the Daily Telegraph. Oh, this guy's making the list, man. We've read a couple of his stuff now, and every time it just gets worse. Children encountering the FAW ET format for the first time may enjoy it well enough, but signs of life, extra or otherwise, are low to nil.
Okay, no. If your notion of how this is not... Oh, God. How do you misread E.T. like that? I mean, really? If your response to this is, the E.T. formula, you really have a giant misread of Spielberg's movie in that case. Just horribly, horribly misread.
I watched that recently with my kids. You know, like 90% of that movie is him bumblefucking around the house with the daughter, right?
I know! And it's about, the childlike exuberance for the world that is devoid in this movie. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That this isn't trying to recontextualize how you interact with the universe through the eyes of this kind of alien encounter with an innocent child. It's just not that movie. That's what E.T. is fundamentally about. If you think the E.T. effect is, alien shows up on Earth and hilarity ensues, you're a moron.
Robert, are you done with the soapbox?
Yeah, yes. Would you like a turn?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Rendy Jones of Rendy Reviews.
Oh, God, why are you finding all these self-employed losers for this one?
Isn't that what we are?
This is a hobby. None of us are employed.
This is not an employee. No, if I had to depend on this to pay my bills, we'd be fucking homeless. Rolling around at the speed of mediocrity. Well, you're so witty.
Oh, wow. You just tried to make a reference to the third best Sonic song. Good for you. You Google that and that one come up?
I haven't found a truly good one yet.
Boy, it occurs to me I might have just pissed off a giant portion of the Sonic fandom by calling that just the third best Sonic song.
If you haven't pissed off the Sonic fandom already, then you fail.
Okay, I'm going to try really hard then for just a second. So yeah, rolling around at the speed of sound, third best. At that, and that's me being generous, by the way. Sally and Sonic, so much better than Sonic and Amy. Sonic and Sally actually have a relationship. Amy's an angry tsundere with a giant mallet.
Amy's a tween. Amy is a stalker.
Yeah, again, Sonic and Sally actually have a relationship. Amy's a stalker with a big hammer.
All right, this last one.
Shadow, not a good character.
I wasn't lying when I said I had that physical in the morning. Can we keep going?
All right, Mark.
Last one. And we turn to Robert's father, Roger Moore, of Movie Nation.
Not this, man.
Eventually, Jim Carrey shows up as the villain. All mustache and ego and wild eyes and gadgets and insults. And things turn funnier. 1.5 out of 4 stars.
Really? If you actually found Jim Carrey to be that good, then you're only giving it 1.4 or 1.5?
Man, really, Jim Carrey is not the funniest part of this movie. He's up there, and he is very funny, but I don't think he's the funniest part.
Well, that wraps it up. Tomorrow, I love Robert Winfree. Tomorrow, he's only a day away. Myself, Pat Mullen, and John War, neither of which will be on the actual fight, because fuck my life.
This is what you get for scheduling stuff this far out, Mark.
This is what your mom gets for scheduling stuff too far out.
My mom doesn't schedule stuff that far out for this reason.
We'll be doing a preview of Wilder vs. Fury 2, and then Robert Winfree is going to finish up with Felder vs. Hooker and join me to cover the actual fight. God damn, pal.
Maybe, depending on how long that UFC event goes on.
It'll be fine. It's boxing. It's Las Vegas. It'll be on at like 1 o'clock in the morning. You know this. I know this. Alexis knows this.
The official contract purses for that fight are $5 million each for Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, and they're both guaranteed to bank more than $25 million total when it's all said and done.
I hope they both walk into the ring, take a shit, and walk out again.
Look, Deontay Wilder might do that.
I would applaud. It would also be a very short night.
No, you wouldn't.
I would salute
You
him.
might think you'd applaud. You wouldn't be horrified. Like, you wouldn't be pearl clutching, but you'd be like, really? I paid $60 for this?
Try 70, but yeah.
Okay, I paid $70 for this, and then Tyson Fury would somehow do something even crazier. And that's what you'd be talking about.
Probably. All right, next week, we've got the source material Lock and Key Volume 1. We've got the TV party for Lock and Key Season 1. Myself and Justice Archer will be touched by the Crimson King as we review Demons and Wizards 3. And then myself and Alexis Hejna will review the first season of Green Eggs and Ham. Plus, there's a special extra source material coming your way as Jesse and I took a few minutes to actually talk about the book as I read to him Green Eggs and Ham.
And the show has reached a new low.
He still hasn't recovered.
We've also got a review of Hollywood Undead, New Empire. The Podsmen reviewed NXT TakeOver Portland. And we have the Sonic Genesis source material up. So go ahead and give all that a look-see in the archives. Alexis Hejna, sell your shit.
Well, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. Our break time is almost over. Convention season is finally getting ready to start, which is good because aside from this podcast, I haven't had nothing to do for the last 2 months, so I've been bouncing off the walls, and it's been driving me insane. So we are going to be making an appearance at Planet Comic-Con here in Kansas City. Our jewelry, of course, you can always find on our Etsy store and our Handmade at Amazon store, and we currently have our stuff actually in person being sold at Pond and Pint and Level 1 Game Shop in Kansas City. As always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Under Duress Twitter. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, intersection of geek and chic.
Robert, sell your shit.
Alexis Hejna and I were on source material. We recorded this on Monday of this week. It will be released on Monday the... Bring up my calendar. Monday the 24th. You can hear us, along with Jesse Starcher, talk about Volume 1 of Lock and Key, Welcome to Lovecraft.
If he ever finishes editing it, because we went off on way too many sidetracks.
We really did. That said, I have no regrets.
How do you abuse that man? I don't know how he let that happen to himself.
Hang on. He was party to it, okay? We weren't just talking and he was sitting there going, please stop, please stop, please stop. We mentioned something for, again, something, and then he'd go, oh yeah, I know about that, and then all of us would kind of collectively go down that path.
And again, like you said, he doesn't have the ability that you do to say, for the love of God, shut up.
So you can listen to us talk about that. Tuesday, Mark and I will be talking about the Netflix adaptation of Lock and Key, and I try really hard not to get angry at movies or television. It's not... Hang on. No. That might sound crazy. That really might, but hang on. Let me explain. Most of the time, I really don't get angry at them, like genuinely angry. I might be annoyed by something that they do. I might think a movie is profoundly stupid. I might be angry at Mark for making me watch something. But I really, since The Dark Tower, I have tried not to get angry at a movie because it's not worth the energy. The closest I got angry at the end of Toy Story 4. Like, that genuinely tweaked my emotions in a bad way. But other than that, I don't get mad at movies, really. I really try not to. Yeah, this series on Netflix really pissed me off. So I'm going to have fun talking about that.
Terrific. All right, folks.
Mark will be along for the ride, and we'll wind up going, I don't understand any of this.
I was going to say, you thought that source material was long? Mark, I weep for you for how long your TV party is going to be when you let Winfree hear off the chain to discuss Lock and Key.
Terrific. Can't wait. All right.
So, hang on. I have read it.
Mother of
Hang
Christ.
on. I just have to ask. Because I asked that you at least read the
Let me
first
answer.
volume.
I know where you're going. I will have read it by Tuesday.
Okay. I just need you to have some context for what I'm going to say. Because if all you have watched the television series and you hear me go off the way I'm going to go off, you might go, well, that seems uncalled for. That's a bit much. There's only a B. Why did you nuke it?
All right. How many issues of this thing do you need me to read so that I can fully understand why you're needing to smash this like it's a watermelon?
If you get through the first volume, so the first 6 issues,
Okay.
that will probably be enough. I mean, most of that is covered in the first episode, and then a little bit beyond that. I'm trying to remember.
Well, you've said multiple times it was the first 3 volumes that they used for this first season. So.
That's where they draw most of their inspiration. Yeah, I mean, the guy doesn't show up until later. There's a few things they radically invert for reasons that are unclear to me.
So
But
first 6 issues or first 18? What do you want me to do here?
First 6. That will give you enough of a feel for the story to get what I'm saying.
I will read it Sunday morning before we go to the Jewish Food Fest, where I intend to wrap myself up in corned beef and eat my way out.
I wish you the best of luck.
Again, mental image. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Today only, free milkshakes for 10-year-old boys. Drink your own weight in milkshake and win a milkshake.
Third attempt. Thank you for joining us here on Damn You Hollywood. We will be back with another Damn You Hollywood in March for The Invisible Man. It'll be another Thursday show, March 5th. So go ahead and check that out. And then we'll have Onward on our usual Tuesday schedule of March 10th. And then Bloodshot, much to Robert Winfree's chagrin. Then A Quiet Place.
Oh, there will be a bloodshot in that theater. I promise you that.
Ooh. And then finally on March 31st, we've got Mulan. So speaking of Mulan, we're moving on. For Robert Winfree, for Alexis Hejna, this has been Damn You Hollywood. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Who wants to go to Olive Garden?